Martial arts exist. The man's hand slowly moves downwards. Brother Wu am an emerald haze of power. The gray-haired man exudes strength. Although unknown to the general public, there are people who have mastered martial arts and use their powers to maintain order throughout South Korea. The man is also one of those who studied martial arts. He tells this to a boy who works part-time as a cashier in a store. Boy. The boy's face is broken and the abrasion is covered with a plaster. He thinks that the man is talking nonsense. 12 hours ago, Chung High School. One student watches another doing something in the backyard of the school. A schoolboy is doing some exercises. He says that Hukkyun is a divine art. He screams and stabs the boy who was standing next to him. The boy falls unable to withstand the blow. His offender triumphs. Another schoolboy comes up to them and says that there is no need to talk nonsense. They just need to take the money and not talk about divine art. The offender laughs and says that he is watching the series Hukchiwon Divine Fist, and everyone who watches becomes fans of the Hukchiwon sect. The boy who was beaten says that he also watches Divine Fist, but sometimes misses it due to lack of money. The boy's name is Kang Haejin, and he is 18 years old. He believes that the importance of fights in real life is too exaggerated. At this time, his hands clenched into a fist. He quickly gets to his feet and rushes at his attacker. At this time, he thinks that a real MMA fighter will definitely beat a martial artist. His opponent does not understand what is happening, but manages to dodge the blow, and Khan falls to the ground again. The enemy laughs and says that it was amazing. This guy became strong, no one knows how. In some YouTube videos, it seems very strong. The boy begins to kick Khan. He calls him a dirty poor orphan. He tells him that if Khan resists, he must be prepared to be beaten even more. A sudden cry stops the fight, and the boy turns around to see who is calling him. The girl demands that her way be cleared. The girl's name is Wu Han. The boy shouts that she is crazy, and if she doesn't want to be beaten, let her find another way. His comrade intervenes and stops his friend. Behind the back brother Wu, a voice is heard asking the boys, "What are they saying?" The boys see who's behind brother Wu. They are scared. This is Van Tisan. He is also 18 years old, and he turns to the offender and says that he demanded to stop abusing children. Otherwise, he will have to deal with Wang Taesong. The boys leave and say it was just a joke. Wang Taesong runs for brother Wu, asks if she's okay and suggests they go somewhere for lunch. Brother Wu replies that she didn't ask for anyone's help. Wang Taesong leans over to Khan and asks if everything is okay with him. He says he doesn't have to worry about these guys. Brother Wu wonders why Khan is getting involved with these guys. She says that if he just stands calmly when they beat him, then everything will end quickly, and if he resists, it will only get worse for him. Brother Wu leaves with Wang Taesong and finally advises Khan to stop resisting. Khan remains sitting on the asphalt, but his hands are clenched into fists. He gets up and thinks about the fact that he has no money, and why should he come to terms with the fact that it is being taken away from him? He thinks that given his current financial situation, he worked like crazy and went to the MMA gym. If he trains more, he can defeat these idiots. But in the gym, they tell him that he needs to stop working out. He asks the coach why so suddenly he regularly pays for lessons. The coach replies that more than 6 months have passed since Khan joined them. He has talent and technique, but Khan should look at his body. Usually after 6 months of training, fighters' bodies begin to build muscle mass. Despite all his efforts, Khan has not changed since his first lesson. It's difficult for the coach to explain this, and it's the first time he's seen such a situation. The coach considers further training pointless and promises to return the money for the lesson because he knows Khan's circumstances. Khan tries to object. He asks the coach to allow him to continue, but the coach tells him that unfortunately in this world, there are efforts that are not rewarded. The store where Khan works, Khan arranges the goods on the shelf and thinks about what the trainer told him. He believes that he has studied the training method and can train on his own. It's even better because it won't cost money. There are no customers in the store right now, and he is going to start with 1 set of deadlifts. He takes the box in his hands. The boy performs exercises with a box, once, 2 times, 3 times. For the 4th time, he feels that the limit of his strength has come, and he falls exhausted to the floor. He feels severe pain, the kind of pain he has been experiencing lately, and thinks that he probably needs to take vitamins. At this time, a scream is heard on the street. Then an apology follows, and Khan understands that this is a crazy homeless man. 2 men accuse the homeless man of stealing something, and he shouts that he didn't do anything and asks to let go of his hand. One of the men says that he needs to take out his bad mood on someone, and he is going to continue beating the homeless man until his mood improves. The homeless man apologizes and asks to be left alone. Khan looks indignantly at how 2 guys beat up an old man, grabs the phone, runs out of the store and pretends to call the police. Hooligans don't want to deal with the police. They run away but promise to return. Kant says these guys only pick easy targets and asks if the man is fine. The man asks in response, "Did he really call the police?" Khan replies that he was only pretending, because if the police arrived, there would be a lot of trouble. He helps the old man up, and the old man thanks him and apologizes for causing such inconvenience to the boy. Khan replies that he really doesn't like people like these guys. He pays attention to the old man's legs and realizes that the guys saw that the old man was walking with difficulty and decided that he was an easy target. The old man asks the boy who his parents are, and now we are again at the point where the story began. "I am also one of those martial artists," says the old man. He thinks that the old man is very strange due to his age, and he decides to play along with him and then send him home. He asks why such a wonderful fighter looks like this. "Because I'm on the run," the old man replies. He says in the past there were various martial arts factions, but now there are only 3 factions left in South Korea. Royal faction. They aggressively use the power of martial arts to control the world around them. A new Shinshin religious group, they follow God as their leader. And the unofficial government organization MP, which is called the Emperor. They control issues related to martial arts. Without any prior warning, these 3 factions joined forces to suppress the other smaller martial arts factions. The old man said that he joined forces with other factions to resist, but these 3 organizations had amazing power. The old man himself barely survived and has been hiding from persecution for more than 10 years. He is very careful and therefore got scared when he thought that the boy would call the police, because he doesn't want to attract attention to himself. The boy listens to the old man's story and thinks that the old man lives in his illusions. The old man says that Khan did not answer the question, who were his parents? The boy replies that his parents died when he was a child and he doesn't know them. He asks the old man why he asks him this question. The old man touches the Khan with his hand, which is enveloped in the emerald mist. He says that the Kaon meridians are blocked. Khan hears about meridians for the first time. The historian explains that these are the paths along which vital energy flows inside the body. Even in an ordinary person, many meridians are open, but in the boy they are completely blocked. It seems that someone blocked them on purpose. The old man says that the Kana meridians have been blocked for at least 6 months. Khan recalls the trainer's words that his body does not change at all. The old man says that the boy's body is not growing because life energy cannot circulate normally in it. The old man says that it is noticeable that the boy is being beaten severely, and in his condition, even a small exercise can cause severe pain throughout the body. If he continues like this, his life energy will leave his body and the boy will die. The old man advises Khan to look for another way, and not to strain his body with training, because in this world, there are efforts that are better not to do. Khan recalls that the coach told him the same thing today. He says that he knows that he has no talent for fighting, and that it would certainly be easier to just put his head down and stop resisting. But he did not receive a proper family education. He wants to become stronger and punish those guys who bullied him. This is the decision he made and no one can stop him. He turns to the old man and says that the old man will either help him, or we can assume that they never met. The old man looks at Khan's hands, which are all beaten up from fights and constant training. Khan thinks that there is no point in arguing with an old homeless man like that, but at this time the old man takes him by the hand. The old man says that he realized that there is no other option. He says he's seen it many times before. People strain their bodies until they collapse. The old man says that he really doesn't want to do this, but if he leaves the boy alone, he will bring himself to death. He touches his hand and says that he will now open the meridians. As soon as it hurts, he tries to break free, but the old man tells him to wait a little longer. "And you need to stand and wait quietly," the old man tells the boy. After a while, he says that everything is ready, and exhausted, leans his elbows on the table. He is very tired and leaves leaning on a stick. Leaving, he says, well, he needs to get better. The boy remains at the store counter in bewilderment. He doesn't even know what to say about the fact that everything happened. 5 hours later, Kan returns home after a shift at the store, and thinks that this world is so huge and there are so many crazy people in it. All this talk about meridians is like the novel of martial arts, and in the 21st century, it is impossible to believe in it. But how then did it happen that he will do now? When he was walking through the streets from work, he fell into the hands of guys who were beating an old man, and one of them reminded the boy that he had said that they would meet again. They began to mock him, calling him a nerd and asking why he didn't call the police. They laughed and told Kan that he likes to live righteously, so let him receive punishment. Then Kan grabbed the offender's finger and pulled sharply. The guy let out a wild scream. His friend couldn't understand what was happening, and the bully held his finger and shouted that it was broken. Kan took a fighting stance and said that he regretted that only one finger was broken. He told the guys that he saw how they panicked, simply because the police arrived. Then the bully rushed at the boy in rage. Kan told himself that he needed to remain calm and watch his attacker's movements carefully. He thought that as soon as this guy came into range, he should hit him. This moment had come. Kan understood it with an inner feeling. What's happening? The huge figure of the attacker was approaching the boy who was standing with his fists clenched. The boy felt his body filled with strength. It was a very strange sensation. His fist was enveloped in a blue haze and he rushed to attack. The bully didn't understand what was happening and was very surprised. Kan ran and a wave of force was ahead. In a dark alley, 2 men in torn clothes lay unconscious, and not far from them stood a boy in a fighting stance, whose sleeve of his jacket and shirt had been torn off. The boy himself could not understand what it was. The voice of a homeless man sounded in his head, asking if the boy was feeling better now. Kan realized that now he could not move. An old man appeared out of nowhere, and asked the boy if he now believed in martial arts. The old man looked at the destruction that Kan had made, and said that the boy was not yet experienced, but this was natural. Now the old man did not limp at all. The boy could not understand what was happening. He saw that the old man could not walk, and he could not understand what kind of smoke was enveloping the old man. The old man said that it was time to meet him. He said that his name is Park Chung-gun, and he is the leader of the Beggars Union. But everyone calls him and knows him by the name General. Kan realizes that his body is not moving, and he cannot move. The general lifts the boy onto his shoulder and carries him away. He explains to him that Kan released too much energy and is therefore very tired. The general continues to say that this will go away after the boy gets enough sleep, so there is no need to worry. The old man asks the boy where he lives, and Kan finds it difficult to answer. He says that he lives alone, and there is nothing to steal from him. At this time, a sharp pain pierces the kana from behind. He starts screaming. The old man tells him that he just pressed an acupuncture point. The boy shouts that he understands everything and asks for forgiveness, and the old man thinks about that only a few hours had passed since he opened the boy's meridians, and they were already so strong. He realizes that Kan may have more potential than he expected. There are a lot of people crowded in the alley who are discussing what happened, and are the 2 men really so drunk that they are lying motionless? But even drunk people cannot look like this. They lie in this position as if they are praying and resemble sacred paintings. Located among a crowd of people, Brother Wu, who finds the spectacle disgusting. Her friend films everything on her phone, and Brother Wu tells her that if she has seen enough, she needs to go to school because they are late. At this time, behind Brother Wu, a man appears. He pushes through the crowd of people and goes to the scene. Exclamations are heard in the crowd. Who is this? How huge he is. Brother Wu looks intently after the stranger. People start to disperse. Brother Wu pauses, turns around again and looks carefully. At the scene of the incident, she sees 2 men and 1 woman who are carefully examining something. Her friend asks her what she was thinking about, but Brother Wu says it's nothing. Friend says that Brother Wu's strange thoughts often come to mind. It's time for them to go to school, so they need to hurry up. Kang Haejin sleeps and has a dream about the events that happened at night. A fight, the inability to move, and finally the figure of a general. The boy wakes up and remembers that this is not a dream, and everything happened in reality, and this guy really took him with him. He sees only his shoes at the door, and realizes that he is home alone. Although he thought that he and the old man came home together, and probably the old man simply left after he carried the boy to the bed. The boy still had many questions for the old man, but his eyes grew dark. His legs stopped obeying him and he fell to his knees. Not only his legs stopped obeying him, his body began to behave somehow strangely. The boy felt as if his heart was about to explode, and his whole body was in agony. He begins to sweat, presses his hand to his chest and cannot understand what is happening to him. His body is in agony. He is enveloped in blue fog, and with a cry, "I don't understand what's happening," he loses consciousness. When he comes to his senses and opens his eyes, he sees that he is in his room. He really hopes that he is sleeping, and does not understand why his body hurts so much. He decides that he needs to see if he has any injuries from yesterday's fight, and what he sees brings him into incredible amazement. His entire body has changed, and is now composed of defined muscles. He raises his hand and sees how his muscles grow. Although this surprises and frightens him, there is another problem. Blue smoke is coming out of his ears. Kan doesn't understand what this symptom is. "This is called life energy," says a voice. The general returning to the room tells the boy that there is no need to make noise in the morning. Now he will explain everything. Therefore, it is better to sit down. Kan accuses the old man that it was his doing, and while he was sleeping, the old man made changes to his body. The general looks at him and laughs. Then he puts his hand on Kan's back, makes a diagnosis, and says that the blood circulation is stable, and there is nothing to worry about. Kan continues to insist that the general did something to him while he was sleeping, and the general says that he just returned and has not done anything with the boy since last evening. Khan shows him his powerful biceps and indignantly demands an explanation. The general says that because the meridians were blocked, the body did not change. Changes began as soon as they opened, and vital energy began to circulate throughout the body. Khan remembers how the old man held his hand in the store and opened his meridian. The general claims that Khan's appearance is not his doing. After all, he himself trained tirelessly, despite the lack of results. The boy achieved everything on his own because he worked hard. The old man says that when he saw that Khan had grown 20 centimeters overnight, he was very surprised. He had to go to the scene of the fight at night to clean up all the traces that Khan left in large numbers. He tells the boy that he will definitely be caught if he uses martial arts thoughtlessly. He leaves too bright a light behind him, and it is only a matter of time before King God or the Emperor tracks him down. He advises Khan to hide his body for a while. As long as the boy cannot control his life energy, he will leave traces everywhere, and he will be tracked down very soon. Khan doesn't understand how he should hide his energy. Should he really wear headphones? Then blue streams of smoke begin to flow through his nose. Then he decides to plug his nose, but blue smoke starts coming out of his pants. The general promises to teach him how to gain complete control over his energy. The man says that he is a general and will take care of all this himself. Khan asks the old man why he is called General. King God Emperor General. What does this all mean? 60 years ago in 1962 in Seoul, the leader of the Beggars' Union, Kim Ju-bong, said that the world is going through significant changes, in which many things are involved. He believed that the Beggars' Union should also keep up and be reborn in a new culture. He talked about the need to change a lot of things, and 8-year-old General Pak listened to him attentively. Kim Ju-bong said that he was changing the title of leader of the union to general. Everyone was very surprised by this, and were speechless at the beginning. And then they started shouting that the leader is ahead of everyone, and why change the title to general? But Kim Ju-bong said that there is a deep meaning behind this, so he will not be a leader but a general. The leader of the Hwasong clan was very surprised by this statement, and could not understand why the general. Kim Ju-bong insisted that from now on they would use the title of general instead of leader, and asked that this title be included in official documents. The leader of the Hwasong clan thought that the English name sounded very strong. He immediately called a translator and asked what Hwasong would say in English. The translator thought about it and replied that Hwasong would sound like a volcano in English. The leader of the Hwasong clan immediately ordered everyone to call him a volcano. The leader of the Mudong clan was very surprised when he heard these names, General Vulcan. The leader of the Hanam clan reacted in exactly the same way. Only the shaman had already been added to the general and the volcano, because that's what the leader of the Mudong clan renamed himself. The leader of the Chongnamu clan has already heard that the others are called General Vulcan, Shaman, and Ocean. After that, a tradition was established to call leaders using English words. At this time, Kim remembered that he was late for school. He was about to run, but his head went blank and he lost consciousness again. When he woke up, he realized that he was no longer in his room. The place where he was lying was completely unfamiliar to him, and someone approached him in the dark. The boy screamed in fear, and the person who entered told him that since he woke up, it was time to get up. This is the location of one of the secret shelters of the Beggars' Union. No one knows about the existence of this place, and Kang can be safe here. The general also told Khan that he would help him gain complete control over his energy. He would train the young man until he could handle it perfectly. But if Khan doesn't succeed, the general continued, then the young man will never be able to leave this place, and will remain in it forever. A woman with blue hair said that Tan was beautiful, and there was no one better than him. She said that it is not easy to find a martial arts master without any clues, and the man who was sitting next to her replied that this is an order. The woman said that she misses the old days, and does not understand how Namgung ended up in such a situation, that he gives out such tasks. The man replied that those days cannot be returned, and we need to understand reality. The woman continued to say that thinking about the two who were found in the alley, it was like being defeated by martial arts. The man replied that no traces of energy were found in that alley, and it is not so easy to get rid of them, and if they absorbed them, they should have awakened. He said that he cleaned it up as best he could, and she replied that there was still something left. The man continued to say that among the martial artists who have survived to this day, there are hardly people who would use their energy recklessly. He believed that if these were inexperienced guys, they would quickly get caught. The woman asked, "Where is this old general hiding? Couldn't he have ascended to heaven? Or it has gone to the bottom, and now it will be very difficult to find it." 2 months have passed. The room was completely shrouded in clouds of blue smoke. The general stands in the doorway and demands that Kan completely hide his aura. Kan stands with his back to him, and whirlwinds of power envelop him from all sides. He is very tired. Sweat is pouring from his face. His body has changed a lot. Now he is not a boy but an athletic man. The general continues his studies and tells Khan to try to completely release his energy. The released energy envelops the general in a stream. Huge waves of energy emanate from Khan and fill the entire space of the room. His fists tighten, and a glow of power emanates from his hands. And the lamp that illuminates the room cannot withstand such a flow. The general tells Khan that he must admit that he has nothing more to teach Khan as far as control is concerned. Khan asks if he can leave now. He is very angry and considers everything that happens to him to be madness. Why is he kept in the sewer for a month? And the general constantly tells him that he is doing something wrong and lessons are ongoing. Khan is forced to do strange things, eat mice and cockroaches and do physical exercises. At work, Khan was almost recognized as Employee of the Month. But now he may lose his part-time job, because the sick leave lasts only a week, and 2 months is too long. He will not have a salary and will lose everything he has. Khan is in complete despair. The general puts his hand on his student's neck and says that you can't talk to your mentor like that. Khan screams in pain. Well, the general also doesn't quite understand what's going on. Training for ordinary energy control takes a year, and if there is no talent, it takes about 5 years. These are the basics of martial arts, but that doesn't mean they're easy. Khan mastered them in 2 months, and the general believes that the young man has frightening talent. Khan gets up and says that he needs to go to school, otherwise he will get in trouble. The general asks, does his student go to school to catch up with the curriculum, or is there another reason? Khan says that he needs to go to university. His teacher grabs him again and presses on the painful point with the words, "Don't lie to me so obviously." Khan waves it off and asks to give him a break. The teacher tells him that he will not stop the young man, especially since he will not listen to him anyway. He advises his student not to forget the main thing. He should not use his abilities. Khan says that the teacher should not worry. In order to beat those who bullied him, he does not need to use his abilities. Chungha High School. Again, the same guys are shouting about the Haejin clan and beating other students. One of them asks, "When will you get tired of it?" and holds a wallet in his hands. They count the money they found in someone else's wallet and say that fighting has been very boring lately. It used to be fun to beat up a newbie. A voice from above asks them, what are they talking about? The hooligans turn and see the figure of a hooded man looking at them. It is Khan who asks them, are they really doing the same thing 2 months later? The hooligans recognize Kang Haejin and note that he has grown up. One of them laughs and says that a tiger has come to them and understands human speech. Anyway, says one of the bullies, we're glad you're back, and as a welcome, we'll kick your ass, Haejin style. Khan immediately rushes to the attack and hits his former offender in the face. It hits him right on the nose and breaks it. Blood is flowing from the nose. Khan swings his hand and his opponent falls to the ground and loses his slippers. His friend stands in surprise. Khan takes a fighting stance after being hit. He approaches the second student and says that now he understands how to use the techniques of the Haejin clan, but novels are just novels. He says that in ordinary life, there are too many movements in these techniques. When he tried them out, he realized that there were a lot of unnecessary movements. The bully doesn't understand what happened, and is it really Kang Haejin in front of him? He can't believe that this guy is the same Kang Haejin he knew before. Are you going to start acting like you normally do? Kang Woo asks the bully, or I'll start first. He takes a fighting stance, stretches his arms forward with clenched fists. The bully shouts that he doesn't want to fight, but Khan does not listen to him and strikes him hard. The bully flies to the wall. The wallet he took from the boy lies on the ground, and Khan says that it's easier than he thought. Khan picks up the wallet from the ground and says that these guys themselves went after those who looked weaker than them. He gives the wallet to the boy, who looks at everything that is happening in surprise, as he tells the boy to just leave and not even mention to the teachers what happened here. The boy thanks his savior and runs away. The young man thinks that he caught these bastards, but now he doesn't know what to do next. He sees that he beat the hooligans too much. He doesn't want to just leave them lying around and thinks that he needs to hide them somewhere. At this time, a voice is heard. What is happening here? Brother Wu looks at Khan and the two hooligans in surprise. She is surprised that they see Kana Haejin here, and asks him what happened here. At this time, on the roof of one of the houses, the general is doing physical exercises and thinking about how good it is to get out. The fresh air is just wonderful. He thinks that if he approaches the matter rationally, then he needed to stop Khan Haejin. And if he did not listen, he needed to be knocked out. But if it were all so simple, then he remembered the fierce face of the young man. If everything had been that simple, the general himself would not have been able to survive. He understands that nothing can be done about it. Besides, Khan is still his student. The general comes to the conclusion that he will need to help the young man. At this time, the men and woman who were in the alley come out onto the roof, and the woman says that the general really fled abroad. The general turns and says, addressing two men and a woman, "It's been a long time since we've seen each other, young Namgun. The trio did not expect to see the general here. They do not know how to react, and the woman screams, "Why is the general here? The leader must prepare for a fight." And the general calmly says that there is no need to make a fuss. The general looks carefully at the three people who are running towards him. A huge stream of force takes off from the roof of the building. The general releases his power, and three people cannot overcome its flow, although they try very hard. They try to overcome the general's strength and bend as if in a strong hurricane. And the general looks at them and says that he sees that these guys get along well with the king. Three young people approached the old man, and he stood shrouded in whirlwinds of power, and mockingly asked them, "Is it worth groveling before the king?" The young people called for help, and a crowd of men ran out onto the roof. They were all very surprised that they would have to fight the general himself. They tried to break through the powerful shield of forces that the general had put up. One of the attackers pulled out a sword, grabbed it with both hands, and rushed into a furious attack. He used the heavenly sword technique in Heaven's Strike, but this attack was drowned out. A huge flash of power rose from the roof. The attackers were amazed at how the old man repelled their blows. The general continued the fight, and noted that these guys had become stronger since their last meeting. The attackers had to urgently call for reinforcements. The woman yelled at her partner to take over the call, and he reached into his pocket for his phone. They were going to call the executioner, and the man was ready to dial the number. But the general's staff crashed into his hand, and the phone broke. With one blow making a coup in the air, the general threw the man back. He said that he wouldn't do that, and he needed to fight honestly. The attackers were confused. Some of them did not understand what was happening. Others were simply angry. The old man covered the distance that separated him from the attackers in one leap. He stands in the circle of his enemies, and in front of him lies a man. The general said that he was getting old and was no longer the same, and if the fight continues, it won't cost you any trouble. He looked sarcastically at his enemies. Young people who saw how the old man behaved in battle did not believe in his weakness. The general began to rotate his stick with monstrous speed, and said that the attackers should take into account his advanced age. He asked them to be gentle with him. The young people could not bear such bullying, and began to attack the man from different sides. The general's hands tightened his grip on the stick, and transferred most of his strength to it. He repelled the attack, and all the attackers flew into the air. At the school playground at the same time, Haejin didn't expect anyone to catch him. "Brother Wu, I also didn't expect to see Kana here." She asked him what happened here. The young man decided to pretend and pretended that he did not understand what we were talking about. At this time he came running to the site Wang Taesong, who was in a hurry to deal with the participants in the fight. He was also very surprised when he saw Khan here, and Khan thought that he had overreacted and needed to look around first. Khan continued to play the fool, and said that he had not seen his classmates for 2 months. Brother Wu and Wang Taesong both noted that in 2 months the boy had changed a lot. Khan said that he recently changed the gym. The new place is just a bomb. He tried hard there and his body began to show progress. Brother Wu couldn't believe it, but Khan continued to convince her of this, after which he shouted that he needed to see the teacher and quickly ran away, leaving his classmates in surprise. Wang Taesong said that the universe knows how to surprise. Brother Wu remained silent. The teacher didn't even look at Kang Haejin, and said that now the boy needs to study hard to quickly catch up with his classmates. The teacher told him to go to class and not miss class anymore. Ken walked along the school corridor and thought that how good it is that the class teacher does not pay attention to him. He knew that he needed to be careful, just as the general had told him. The general told him that the God King and the Emperor had deployed large-scale video surveillance networks to track down street martial artists. Therefore, even after completing the training, the young man should not have used his energy or attracted unnecessary attention with his actions. Khan didn't understand how he could not stand out if he had grown so much in just 2 months. For now he decided to try to blend into the crowd as much as possible. He wasn't sure if it would work. He sat down at his desk and could not understand whether his plan was working or whether no one simply cared about him. He saw that Wang Taesong doesn't look in his direction at all. But Brother Wu, I couldn't take my eyes off him, and that could be a problem. It didn't look like she was going to tell anyone about the changes that had happened, but she looked as if she suspected Khan of something. The boy mentally screamed Brother Wu so that she would turn away from him and look at her textbooks. After class, everyone went out into the corridor and Khan hoped that nothing else would happen today. Brother Wu. I kept an eye on him for a while, but nothing happened. The young man decided that he needed to think about finding a part-time job and going for an interview because he had no money left. He looked in the mirror and realized that with such a look, he had little chance of finding a job as a salesman. Approached him Brother Wu and advised that if he wants to find a job, remove the plasters from his face. Khan jumped in surprise, and Brother Wu said she wouldn't talk for long. But for a while it's better for Khan to lay low right now. because he is in much greater danger than he imagines. At that time, Brother Wu, a friend, called and the girl went with her. Khan could not understand what danger the girl meant. At this time, a huge student approached him and said that this idiot who beat his friends really wants to go home calmly. Khan thought that it was precisely this danger that told him about Brother Wu. The big man demanded that he come with them. They will deal with him. Khan agreed, but added that he had an interview in an hour, so he wouldn't stay long. His words surprised the bully very much. He promised that it would take more than 1 hour, and brought Khan to the site where there was a large group of young men armed with baseball bats. They promised Khan that he would not return home today. Khan saw that all the school hooligans had gathered here, and decided to attack him altogether. One of the hooligans said that if Khan beat 2 of their comrades, this does not mean that he became a big shot. And the second immediately attacked the young man, shouting that now they will show him. But he immediately flew back, and his nose began to bleed. Khan stood in an awkward fighting stance, pretending that he did not know how to fight at all, while his opponent lay in front of him on the floor. He estimated that there were about 20 people here, and if he does not use internal energy but only brute force, then all this will turn into a rather brutal beating. At this time, a dark figure was watching what was happening from around the corner. Less than an hour had passed when all the hooligans were lying on the ground with injuries of varying severity. Khan was focused on not releasing his internal energy, but the more he moved, the harder it was for him to control it. He needed to be more careful and keep all his energy to himself. He was about to take a breath and go for an interview. At that time, a man approached him from behind. Someone hit him from behind with all his might, and Khan missed the blow. For some time, he lost the ability to control the energy, and it left him. Someone's hand grabbed him by the hair and pulled him. Khan stood up and saw in front of him Wang Taesong, who looked at him in surprise. Wang Taesong saw the energy oozing from Khan's ears, and he shouted with anger and indignation, "Loser!" Where did you learn martial arts? The roof of the house on which the general's battle took place was almost destroyed. Here and there, beaten young people lay, and the general complained that old age had overtaken him, and he began to get tired much faster. He proposed to end the battle, but the Namgung kids tried with all their might to get up and continue. They again rushed at the old man, who stood like a rock and did not move. The woman asked the general why he suddenly revealed himself and what he was planning, and the general asked a counter-question. He asked why there was so much doubt in their swords. If they were really going to kill him, there would be no way he wouldn't get a single scratch. Is the ability of the attackers really so senseless? Or did they really not fight at full strength just because the generals asked them to? The general continued to teach his opponents and said that if they want to survive in the world of martial arts, they must behave appropriately. If you doubt it like that, then no one can do anything. The man who attacked the general was unpleasant to hear these words, and the woman clutching the sword screamed that the general had no right to say that because he didn't know anything. She shouted that she would now kill the old man, and he repentantly said that he had really overdone it, and now he was leaving. Finally, he said that they would meet again if fate so wished. It turned into a tornado and disappeared, leaving the attackers alone. The man and woman couldn't figure out what the hell was going on, and where did the old man suddenly disappear to? "Leader, are you okay?" the woman asked the man, and he could only powerlessly clutch the sword in his hands. At this time, the old general was flying through the air, moving further and further. He thought that with the appearance of large fish, they would not pay attention to the small fish. And I really hope that this idiot Kang Haejin, it won't attract their attention. At this time, behind the school, Khan tried to distract attention Wang Taesong, and pretended that he didn't understand what martial arts he was talking about. Wang Taesong. I didn't believe that Khan didn't know anything. Out of passion, he hit Khan and Khan flew several meters away. But he did not fall, but sank to his feet, leaning his hand on the ground. He was very angry and a blue fog rose above his back. Furious Wang Taesong shouted that the end would come to the end now, and if he didn't want to die, he would have to tell everything. At that time, Wang Taesong noticed that Khan knows how to control his energy. Wang Taesong. He said that his father has a business, royal company, in which Wang Taesong heir. In this company they call him the prince, and he even feels somehow awkward about it. He is surprised that Khan has learned some things in a few months, and he asks Khan where there are still hidden members of annoying sects. He demands that Khan tell him where he learned everything, and then maybe Wang Taesong he will be spared. Khan asks what will happen if he refuses, and Wang Taesong replies that then Khan will be beaten and destroyed and rushes at him. Khan dodges a blow of monstrous force, in which Wang Taesong put all my energy into it. But Wang Taesong very strong, Khan's defense cannot withstand. Wang Taesong breaks through his energy. Wang Taesong understands that his opponent only knows how to mindlessly release his energy. He shouts to Khan that he's trash, and asks if he had fun beating those boys with martial arts. Did Khan really think that he would be the leader of the school? He continues to beat Khan, and shouts that Khan is still the same sting as always, and Wang Taesong he will kill both the Khan and the person who taught him this. You don't know your place and are playing the fool, continues to beat the young man, Wang Taesong. Khan cannot do anything with a force that exceeds him many times over. Each blow knocks him to the ground. Can Haejin, screams angrily Wang Taesong. Why did you study martial arts? Everything would be fine if you kept your head down. He says that the Kana would be bullied quite a bit, but Wang Taesong I would have saved him before Brother Wu. Khan can't understand what he's talking about Wang Taesong, and what does it have to do with it, Brother Wu? Wang Taesong suggests that these two who always bullied the Kana did not act of their own free will. Blame it all, Brother Wu, because guys have to try hard to look good in front of girls. Khan understands that all this time, he was a toy in Vanya's hands, and Wang Taesong used it for his own purposes. Now Wang Taesong thinks it's time to end all this. At this time, Khan rises to his feet and says that he has decided. When he learned about martial arts, he was very nervous and didn't know what to do next, but now he definitely decided that he needs to study as much as possible, and he will think about the rest later. He gets into a fighting stance and releases his energy. Wang Taesong doesn't expect such a reaction, and doesn't understand what this geek is talking about. Khan shouts at him that only an idiot thinks that these days there are women who like such methods, and Wang Taesong, not a prince at all, just an ordinary piece of crap. Damn degenerate, shouts Wang Taesong and rushes at the Kana. Khan tries to copy his movements, but still misses blows. Wang Taesong calls him stupid, and says that you can't learn anything by blindly copying someone. At this time, he continues to strike blow after blow, many of which reach the target. Khan raises his hand and realizes that he was thrown aside. He says Wang Taesong that thanks to him he learned something useful. If you knead the dough and add density to it, it will become stronger. Wang Taesong is mistaken that he is so good with his abilities. Khan continues. His look does not express anything good, and Wang Taesong in fright. He screams for Khan to stop looking at him with that look. He clenches his fists and directs all his strength into them to finish off the upstart with one blow. Khan assumes a fighting stance and offers Wang Taesong just attack. Wang Taesong used the King's Light technique. This technique is very strong. Yi Kang notices this immediately. He crouches to the ground but stands very precisely on his feet. The fists of both opponents are tightly clenched, and each has its own type of strength. And now they come together in close combat. The blue and red mist mix and the fists touch. Wang Taesong understands that his opponent is trying his best and can defeat him. But compared to his mentor, he is nothing. Near Wang Taesong, a man appears who throws a strong blow when Khan misses and says that now everything will end. Man turns to Wang Taesong and calls him young master. He says they haven't seen each other for a long time. He says that the father Wang Taesong. He called an emergency meeting for a reason, but because the general showed up. The man went for a walk, felt some kind of energy, came here to check, and it turned out that it was a friend of the gentleman. He says Wang Taesong that now he is his debtor. After all, he would have saved him just a couple more seconds, and Wang Taesong would have been severely beaten. Wang Taesong objects. He says that he would still have won, even if no one had interfered. The man is angry but pulls himself together and doesn't show it. He mockingly bows and asks for forgiveness for being wrong. He asks the young master to forgive him with all his generous heart. The man throws the Kana, who is lying unconscious, onto his shoulder and says, Wang Taesong, which takes his friend. The man says that the meeting turned out to be much more fun than he thought. Together with the Khan, the man goes out into the street, and does not notice that a girl is hiding behind a tree. Brother Wu carefully watches everything that happens from behind a tree. The main headquarters of the royal company, the city of Zhongwan. A man and a woman walk along the corridor. The woman says that she doesn't want to go there and asks the man to say that she feels bad and left early. The man replies that it is pointless to run away. He understands that the woman doesn't like it, but she needs to be patient a little longer. They approach the door near which two guards are on duty. They call themselves the man Namgung Jinjun, the 6th chief of the 7 departments, the woman Namgung Jinjun, the 7th chief. The president is already waiting for them, and they enter. There are already several people sitting in the room. These are senior managers of the royal company, 7 departments. One of the women says that she has already heard about how the general treated them. This is a woman, the 2nd chief of 7 departments of Big Gotoran, and she laughs at those who entered, calling them a bunch of morons. There is also a 3rd chief of 7 departments in the room, Glasses and Kensu. The 4th chief of 7 departments, Tank Do Hyunbae, laughs loudly. The 5th chief of the 7 departments, the nimble Ju Mansion, also laughs. Gina asks Big what would change if she fought, and Big replies that she would show her best side. She says that she can beat Gina. Gina wants to attack Big, but her brother stops her. Suddenly a man sitting behind him demands that everyone stop. The president of the royal company, King Wang Chulwu, tells everyone to calm down. He didn't call them here to rip each other's throats out. The girls disperse dissatisfiedly to different ends of the room. The king says that General Park Jang-gun is very strong. No one will blame anyone for the loss, and there is no point in self-flagellation. The hustler asks why this old man suddenly appeared after hiding all this time. And the tank asks, is he going to miss it? The president asks the brother and sister, was there anything remarkable at the battle site? Jun replies that it seemed to him that the general was deliberately attracting attention. He had a lot of time to escape. If he wanted, everyone who was there would be dead. However, he did not kill anyone, but only wounded a couple of people. It seemed to Jun that the general wanted to attract their attention, but he didn't want to make a fuss out of it. Big laughs and says that it turns out that the brother and sister owe their lives to their enemy. They always talk about being from a family that was proficient in martial arts. They should be ashamed. Gina really doesn't like her words. The brother stops his sister and agrees with Big's words. Big says that she is bored listening to all this. The men say that if Jun's hypothesis is correct, then something happened that the general does not want to reveal. The glasses begin to say what is the first thing that comes to mind, but he does not have time to finish the sentence. How the first chief of the 7 department, the cruel John In-wan, appears on the threshold, carrying Kang Haejin on his shoulder, and saying that this looks like a student of the general. Big is interested in why the cruel man came here, because he believes that meetings are mortally boring. The cruel one replies that sometimes he has to miss a meeting due to unforeseen circumstances. But he tries his best. With these words, he throws Khan to the floor. The cruel one turns to the president and says that this boy looks like a friend of the president's son. They fought. The boy was very good at fighting, so the cruel one decided to intervene. If he had not done this, the president's son would still have won. The cruel one says that the appearance of a general who has been hiding for many years and the appearance of this boy cannot be a coincidence. The cruel one says that they will find out everything when they talk to this young man, and a cruel smile appears on his face. Late in the evening, a light is on in an apartment in one of the houses. The empty suitcase is open, and a school uniform jacket lies next to it. This is a school uniform, Brother Wu. The girl changed her clothes and tied her hair in a bun. She is dressed in a fighter's uniform, and behind her back a sword shines, on which the emblem of a bird is visible. The girl leaves the room with a decisive step. She needs to hurry up, so she jumps right out of the window, and without any damage it lands on the asphalt near the house. She approaches the house where Kan lived and hopes that here she will find a clue about his origin. She needs to somehow contact his mentor. She takes the handle and opens the door. Suddenly a sharp scream overtakes her, and she barely has time to jump away from the stick that is aimed right at her forehead. The general tells her that she can't just break into someone else's house. Girl recognizes the general, and the general says that the girl is dressed in familiar clothes. The general asks the girl who she is and advises her to think carefully before answering. Brother Wu forgives him to lower the stick and says that he understands him. She says her name is Brother Wu. She is the daughter of His Highness, and she and the general are on the same side. The general is surprised that Brother Wu, the daughter of someone he knew so well. The leader of the Pure Current sect is His Highness Wu Yum. He was one of the strongest martial artists, even among those who fought against the emperor. He was strong, wise, and energetic. He lifted everyone's spirits with just his presence. He eventually became trapped and died. The general heard that he had a daughter. If he had survived, he would now be the same age as the general. The general asks Brother Wu just one question. What happened to Khan and where is he now? Brother Wu is convinced of his suspicions that it was the general who trained Kim. She says his student is now in grave danger. And indeed it is. There are blood splatters on the walls of the room. Kang Haejin is chained and beaten. He is tied with chains to the pipes. The cruel stands opposite him and says that at first everything is going well. He asks Khan if he is going to start talking. Cruel shows Khan a photo of the general and asks if this is really his teacher and where is he now. Khan does not answer a word, and a grimace of disgust distorts his face. He cannot contain his internal energy, and it bursts out and envelops him in blue smoke. The young man tries to break the chains with which he is bound, but they are saturated with force and do not give in. Cruel says that Khan is under a special technique, so all of Khan's efforts are useless. The man promises Khan to let him go if he answers all the questions honestly. He even promises to forgive the emperor so that he can give Khan a job. Khan spits in his executioner's face and doesn't say a word. The cruel man barely manages to cover his face with a photograph. Then he decides to resort to stronger measures of influence on the young man and goes deeper into the room. He approaches the tools laid out on the table. Khan thinks that it was his own fault that he got into this situation. The teacher warned him, but he was too careless. He gave in to his emotions, and this is what it led to. So he decides to take full responsibility and says he doesn't know anything. The cruel one says that at first everyone knows nothing. He picks up a scalpel and it's clear that it gives him pleasure. He says he'll start with Khan's nails. The king is sitting in his office and a man is standing in front of him. This is Glasses, and he reports that the reconnaissance group has begun an operation, and after a while they will receive some information. The king reads the report and says that this is the key to the whereabouts of the general, who showed up many years later. The general must be found no matter what. The king says that you need to be able to catch the general and learn what he has. The bracelet on the king's hand is filled with power. Powerful streams of power flow from the king, enveloping him in red mist. He goes on to say that if they get what they need, they will be able to surpass even the emperor, and their company will be at the top of the martial arts world. But other organizations shouldn't know about this, and the king wonders, what about cover-up? Oki reports that there are no problems today. The company's security guards heard suspicious sounds on the street and became wary. A woman and a man approach us and the guards try to block their path. The woman speaks one word, "Get away," and the guards scatter to the corners of the building. The woman and man pay no more attention to them and go inside. There are 2 guards standing in front of the royal company's CEO's office. One's phone rings, he answers the call. The other also receives the call. But they don't have time to hear anything, because the 2 figures are already close. The woman says that the guards are very good, and words alone are not enough to persuade them. The guards declare an emergency. They urgently need to report to the general director. But the hand of the man who comes to meet them is already filled with strength. He simply touches the guards with his hands and they groan in pain. Then an explosion is heard, and the guards are scattered in different directions, and the door flies out, knocked out with monstrous force. The king watches everything that happens gloomily. A woman and a man enter the office and say that they have not seen the king for a long time. The female leader of Shinshinke God Shinsenyi says that according to rumors, a long-lost general has appeared. The man says that the agreement must be respected. This man is the director of the Special Martial Artist Management Bureau, Emperor Huang Jaiho, and he wants the king to share all the information with him. Ahan stands near the window and looks thoughtfully at the street. The general comes out and apologizes for keeping the girl waiting. He changed into a combat suit and says that he knows about the emergency, but they need to be fully armed. Considering that they have to fight the king, they need to do everything, what they are capable of. The general cannot believe that Kang Haejin is in the same class as the king's son. This cannot be a mere coincidence. He will also assure that Ahan is also here for a reason. Hehan confirms this and says that she deliberately chose the same class as Wang Taisang. She hid her identity and collected information to avenge her father. The girl asks the general if this is the opportunity she has been waiting for, and whether he can defeat King Wang Chulwu. The general replies that he has aged, and the king has become stronger. Plus, they're heading to his headquarters, which complicates things. But the general asks the girl not to worry, and promises that he will not lose to the king. Will never lose. The meeting of the heads of martial arts schools continues at the king's main office. God Shinsen says with a laugh that it has been more than 10 years since they all got together. Time has flown by, but they have not changed. The king does not share her joy and scolds her with bad words. The emperor suggests leaving the chatter and getting down to business. He demands from the king that he give all the information available to him about the general. Glasses shouts that there is no information. God tells him not to interfere in the adults' conversations and to stand quietly aside. The emperor advises the king not to be a fool, because the emperor himself has bad guesses. The emperor says that there is a fact that the general attacked the king's office. The king has a schoolboy who may turn out to be a student of the general. The emperor tells the king that he underestimated the skills of his special bureau of martial artists. He recalls that 18 years ago, after the end of the war, 2 organizations entered into an agreement with the bureau. According to this agreement, they all must share information about the surviving illegal martial artists with each other. And the king needs to cooperate with the bureau when he finds such people, including the general. Park Jangan-won is a class A dangerous person. The king is obliged to immediately report any information about him to the special bureau. The emperor says that King Huang Chulwu did not do this, and this is his last chance to gain information. If he does not do this, it will be considered a violation of the terms of the agreement and action will be taken. The emperor threatens that he will dissolve the royal company. The king does not like the situation very much, but he is forced to obey. At this time, the general and Ahan land near the royal office. The girl says that according to her information, Khan is in the basement of the building in a torture chamber. The general replies that even after so many years, this office stinks. The general is about to go to the basement to get Kang Haejin out. Suddenly, the windows of the building are illuminated by a bright flash of someone's power. The general recognizes the emperor's aura. No one has such a fierce aura. Undoubtedly, he immediately sensed everything and came to check it out in person. If the emperor is here, then the woman is with him too, because all organizations have made such an agreement. The general tells Han that in this state of affairs, it is better for them to retreat. He doesn't think he can fight 3 at once, and if he rushes in now, they'll be captured and won't save Han. Han says that they will not kill Han right away, because he has important information. The general is preparing to retreat and think over further actions. He says Han is right and his hands grip the stick. The 3 leaders go to the torture room, which is located in the basement of the royal company. The king knocks on the door. The door opens, and Cruel says that he is busy and asks to come back later. Suddenly he notices that the king did not come alone. God says she recognized Zhang Inwan by his nickname, the Cruel One. And he asks, is it true that he is the king's right hand? The king asks if they managed to get something out of Khan, but Zhang Inwan will answer that it was not possible, and adds that it has not yet been possible. He says that the boy is very stubborn. There are few of them now, but if you wait a day or two. This does not suit God. She wants to talk to Khan right now. The emperor comes in with her. Khan says he doesn't know anything and won't say anything. God Shinsen-hee touches his face and promises to make the young man feel comfortable. She uses her skills and asks Khan where the general is. Khan realizes that he shouldn't say anything to this woman, but his mouth moves on its own and he says, "General." The general is here. A voice comes from behind and those present widen their eyes in surprise. The general stands in the haze of his power and rage emanates from his figure. The king cannot believe that the general is in his office. The emperor says that this came as a surprise to him too, and asks the general if he thought that the king was alone in the office. The general replies that he knew about everyone, but there are times when a martial artist cannot retreat. He will take a fighting stance, and whirlwinds of power will envelop him. He furiously says that everyone standing here dared to touch his student, and now he challenges them to a fight. Han sits alone on the lawn outside the royal office. She can't move. After her conversation with the general, she felt the influence of his power. The general immobilized her and ordered her to sit here. He told her not to worry. He would free her when he returned. He was tired of watching the young die for the old. And if you are a martial artist, there are moments when you cannot retreat. The general is ready for battle and defiantly awaits a retaliatory attack. Kim can't believe she sees her teacher here. The general tells him that he will soon be free. He needs to be patient a little. The king clenches his fist and uses the imperial rosary technique of the first phase. He accelerates and uses the imperial battle strike. In response, the general uses the first phase quarterstaff style and demonic fire. Both opponents collide in close combat, and their forces try to defeat each other. The general manages to deal a strong blow to the king, and he flies to the side. But he lands on his feet, his hand throwing out flames of power. The general shouts to Khan that he needs to deal with these guys first. The king calls the general an old man. He shouts to Brutal and Glasses, who are standing nearby, to run away from here and protect the employees. Cruel does not want to leave the cheerful company, and Glasses joyfully supports the order of his superiors. The king shouts that he will deal with this old man himself. He forbids everyone to get involved in the battle. The employees leave and the Cruel One says that even the Almighty cannot stop the king now, and they can leave. The general notes that the king was as self-confident as he was. That's how it remained. The king uses the third phase imperial rosary technique and flies above the general. He says that he is simply confident and uses the ferocious tiger domination technique. The general notes that over the years the guy has become much stronger, but repels the attack. The king says that he trained specifically for this moment, but Grandpa is not capable of anything. Now the king will get revenge for the defeat he suffered 18 years ago. The general agrees that the king has become magnificent. He swings his battle staff. Whirlwinds of power envelop him. But not only the king became stronger, the general uses the quarterstaff style. His sixth phase is the glancing blow. The king cannot do anything to counter such a blow and misses it, but he still gets to his feet. The general notes that his opponent is very strong, because such a blow is not easy to withstand. He attacks the king again. At the same time, he breaks the chains that bound Khan. The king is temporarily stunned and cannot understand what is happening. The general picks up Khan and asks if he can stand. Khan says that he himself is to blame for what happened, and there is no need to save him. The general replies that it is the teacher's duty to protect his student. The king, in a rage, puts his hand into his bosom and pulls out a grenade, and throws it at the general and his student. There is an explosion that fills the entire room with smoke, but the general is already running towards the exit. He holds Khan on his shoulder, and says that the king is stupider than he thought. He runs out of the basement into the office corridor. But then God and the emperor meet him. God attacks him. She says she watched the battle, but could not stay away when she saw the general leaving. The emperor tells the king that he gave him the opportunity to fight one-on-one, but the situation has gotten out of control, and they need to intervene. The general with Khan on his shoulder stands against 3 strong fighters. He asks Khan if he can escape and receives an affirmative answer. The general throws the young man out of the basement and tells him to run away. and the general will detain these three. Now he gets into a fighting stance and offers to fight for real. The three attackers don't mind him. They are ready to fight. The general says that if they need his life so badly, they can come and take it. Khan, powerless, bangs his fist on the closed basement door and calls for his teacher. He thinks that if he had listened to the teacher and behaved normally, he would not be in this situation now. A voice is heard behind him, saying that he didn't think that his grandfather was so strong, and Khan managed to escape. Kang turns to see cruel Jung Ihwan, who is very happy to meet him. He invites Khan to fight, and wants the young man to show him what he is capable of. He promises that he will fight with one sword. Kang gets to his feet and says he will kill Jung Ihwan. In the locked basement, the emperor says that the general is trying to buy time so that his student can escape. He asks the general if he really thinks he can handle the three of them. The general replies that they will check it now. There is an explosion of power. The general uses the second phase combat staff move, and he points his staff at the king, who happens to be in his way. The king is stunned by such a sudden attack. The general adds the style of the advancing staff and the edge of the blade, and the king has difficulty blocking these blows. He thinks that the old man has become very strong over the years. The king fails to completely block the blow. He misses it and flies towards the wall with terrible force. A grimace of pain and despair appears on his face. God and the emperor watch the battle and realize that the enemy is very strong. "Vile old man." The king groans and tries to get up, and the emperor realizes that the general has innate strength. He uses life energy to become stronger. The general believes that since he is fighting against three, this is absolutely fair. The emperor asks the general if that boy is really so important to him, and the general replies that the emperor has always looked at people as a resource, and he does not understand this. The general says the basement is too cramped for a four-man fight, and he suggests changing the location. He spins a ring of power and breaks through the ceiling. Brick fragments rise into the air. The entire royal company building lights up with explosions of power. Ian watches in surprise as the building opposite her tilts and almost falls. Three people are running, trying to escape from the fragments of stones that are falling on them. The general hovers above them. He is shrouded in an emerald haze of power. Stones fly and fall. Everything is mixed up in the royal company. The three martial artists prepared for the battle and realized that it would be very difficult. The general roars that he is now starting the fight for real. In the office corridor, the walls are shaking, and Jung Ihwan says that the fight of the century is taking place there. His heart skips a beat. He invites Khan to start the fight and says that since he is out of shape, he will succumb to him even more. He will fight with one hand and will let Khan go if he hits him even once. Kang lunges at Ihwan, but he easily dodges. Cruel asks if Khan really can't channel his energy correctly, and why is he so weak. Khan is very angry about this. "Try again," says Cruel. "Your teacher is taking a risk because of you, and you are nothing of yourself." Kang cannot stand the bullying and shouts that Ihwan is a degenerate. Then he tries to pull himself together and calms himself down. He understands that Ihwan is too strong and cannot be defeated simply by force. He easily dodges all of Khan's attacks. Kang believes that the fact that Ihwan considers him a weakling plays into his hands. He pretended to be weak and emotional and lulled the Ihwan's vigilance. But Khan carefully monitors his opponent, and as soon as he sees his weak spot, he will hit him there. At this time, a serious battle breaks out on the roof. The general attacks the king from all sides at once with inhuman speed. The king can barely hold back the onslaught of his opponent, and there is no question of attacking. The king is about to come to an end. He can no longer resist. God comes to his aid. She appears in front of the general and shouts, "Stop!" She is completely shrouded in her power. But the general, with a huge effort of will, breaks the flow of her power. He will not allow them to join forces. He uses his power as a shield, and God flies away. She is very angry that her attempt to destroy her opponent failed. The emperor approaches the general from behind with a huge ball of power in his hand. But the general turns in time and manages to block the terrible blow with his staff. The fighters collided with such force that they were both thrown away from each other. The emperor's shirt and suit sleeve were torn. He attacks the general again, creating a fiery wall of force, and the general surrounded himself with emerald rings that act as a shield. At the last moment, the general flies up and leaves his opponent alone. The emperor looks up and sees the general standing high. The general takes a breath and thinks that his three opponents are very strong. Emperor Huang Jaiho. Even though the general uses his innate strength, there is not a scratch on him. There was almost no time left for the general. If he continues to absorb life energy, he will end. His opponents stand below and look at him. Imperato sensed something and orders the fighters to get ready. The general expands his rings of power and swings his staff. He believes that this way he has a chance to win. Taking the quarterstaff along with the cut causes all three opponents to stagger back. The general leans on his staff and jumps down. The iron armor style adds destructive power. A huge explosion shakes the entire building, a cloud of emerald power covering everything. Down below, Kang and Ikhwan felt strange tremors. They even found it difficult to stay on their feet. Taking advantage of the moment, Khan attacks his opponent. Ikhwan looks at Kang with disdain. He steps aside a step and thinks that he will end the fight now. But it's too late and Khan's fist cuts through the space. There was a huge hole in the Royal Company office building. Half the floors were destroyed, and a lone figure stood below. The general was rising to his feet after his jump down. The emperor, who was standing below, said that he underestimated the general, and considering that he used his life energy, his power exceeds all expectations. He continued that it was impossible for one, even two fighters to cope with the old man. The king was badly beaten and cursed the damn old man. Bog clutched her wounded hand and complained that her favorite dress could now be thrown away. The general understood that he would not be able to cope with three, and even his staff would not help him. The emperor said that he saw that the general's strength was running out. He decided to finish him off quickly, and with one blow and raised his hand over his opponent. At this time, another battle was going on the surviving floor. Khan dealt a strong blow to Ikhwan when he relaxed. Ikhwan's nose began to bleed and he flew to the side, such was the force of the blow. Khan did not believe that he had succeeded. Ikhwan sat up with difficulty and tried to bring himself to his senses. The blow made an impression on him. He said he was surprised that Khan kept waiting for the moment to strike and struck with all his might. He continued that if Kang had hit harder, Ikhwan would have died. Khan was very surprised by this, but the young man was completely exhausted after the attack and realized that he could not even raise his hand. However, he got into a fighting stance and decided that he would fight on willpower. He shouted to Ikhwan to get up and continue the fight, but Ikhwan was sincerely surprised and asked why continue the fight. He reminded Khan that he promised to let him go if he hit him just once. The cruel one asked Khan if he really wanted to fight further. After all, then he will die. Ikhwan said he always keeps his word. Besides, he really likes Khan. And he left. He released Khan and said that maybe they would meet and then have fun from the heart. He said that old people were fighting in that direction and Khan could leave the building. At this time, the ceiling and walls began to crack. From a strong explosion, a wall flew out and debris scattered in different directions, almost hitting the young people. Ikhwan said that this happened at a very bad time. A picture of the battle appeared before their eyes. The general defended himself, and three of the strongest fighters in the world were approaching him. The general was all wounded and held on with all his strength. Khan, shouting, "Teacher," rushed to the general, who did not expect to see him here. Ikhwan tried to detain the young man. He said that it was okay that the old man would die. If Khan runs there, he will die. And why did the cruel one let him go? He suggested quietly watching the battle from here, rather than meddling in it. The emperor said that the general greatly surprised him. He exceeded all the emperor's expectations because he used up so much life energy and is still alive. The trio of fighters advanced on the exhausted general. The king rejoiced that now his enemy was at an end. God said that now the general was finally exhausted and would not be able to resist. The emperor raised his hand, and a dragon's paw was woven from his power. He was going to finish off the general with this blow. The general could barely stand on his feet, but continued to challenge his enemies to battle. He wanted to take at least one of them with him. Three fighters, surrounded by the smoke of their forces, were in no hurry to approach the wounded but still dangerous old man. At the same time, a red fist, a fiery fan, and a red-hot hand shot up, and a fighting staff flew towards them. With the last of his strength, the general blocked all three blows with his staff. The emperor was very unhappy that his enemy was still alive. The general tried to jump and get away from his opponents, and the emperor saw how the Ikhwan was holding back the general's disciple next to them, and was about to strike in the style of the yellow dragon of the first phase. In a huge leap, the emperor was about to hit Kang Haejin with a dragon strike. The rays of emerald power sparkled so brightly that they blinded everyone around. The general instantly returned to the battlefield and managed to get in the way of the deadly blow. He took it upon himself. Khan could only scream with all his might, "Teacher," and escaped from Ikhwan's hands. The emperor said that he was sure that the general would return to save the boy, and he was right. The general coughed and realized that this was the end. He told himself that he had not lived the best life. Then he looked at Khan, who was again supported by the Ikhwan, and decided that at the end of his life he had managed to do something great. He touched Khan with his hand, which was shrouded in emerald power. Dying, he bequeathed to his student to stay alive. The emperor waved his hand and drops of blood spilled into the air. The assassination of the general was accomplished. Khan screamed and struggled out of the cruel one's steel hands. Grief clouded his mind. The emperor went to the exit, and as he walked, gave an order to the Ikhwan to now kill the general's student. Ikhwan squeezed his hand, and blood sprayed from Khan's mouth. He fell to the floor breathless, and the emperor noted that they had some good booty today. The emperor ordered the king to clean up the battlefield and went to the exit. The king was covered with wounds and was not very happy about being commanded. God said that at the end the fight was no longer very interesting, and also went to the exit. Haejin the Cruel said that he also had nothing to do here, and was leaving. He looked at Khan's body, which lay under his feet, and said that it was a pity for the boy. He was very capable. The Haejin made a phone call and called a cleanup team, and ordered them to dispose of the corpses. In the forest, a group of people were digging graves. Nearby lay 2 bodies in bags. They were discussing the news that the famous general had died, and now they were burying him. He went all the way to the emperor, and what happened in the end. They discussed the fact that the boy was apparently a student of the general, and the general died while saving him. One of the gravediggers said that the boy was so young, and he was unlucky that he chose the wrong teacher. Khan was lying in a bag and his eyes were closed. However, in the place where the general touched before his death, an emerald fire of power flared up. It grew stronger and finally exploded. This burst of power erupted from the ground.